What happens when you can't make any sense out of your mental declutter? So I often suggest that people with busy brains write it all down. Write out every thought, half idea, and wouldn't it be cool? All those notes in one place. I have a spiral notebook that I've been keeping for a couple of weeks for that very plan. Once a day, I write down the ideas spinning in my head. Wait, let me back up. My brain works overtime in the morning when I'm getting ready for the day. So I wake up with so many ideas and things I want to do. But since there isn't space in my current day for all of this, I write it all down in a notebook so that I can implement the needle moving ideas when they need to happen. I know a lot of people do this and they call it a brain dump or whatever, but here's a question that people ask me all the time, especially the busy brain people. Once you have all the notes written out, what do you do with them? For some of us with the busiest of brains, it is incredibly difficult to assign weight to so many tasks. In a perfect world, what needs to happen is that you look over your list, figure out what rises to the top for the day. You sort through and prioritize, making a plan to accomplish the important stuff. Those are your needle movers. And then you get rid of or put to the side the tasks that just don't matter currently. But what if your brain won't let you do that? For whatever reason, this week, my brain was full of ideas, and I had even blocked out time to work on them. But I couldn't decide which of the ideas was the most important thing to grow my business right now. As a solopreneur, there are projects I need to take on in marketing, product development, and finance, but all of them seem like things I should be doing right now. My list was feeling overwhelming, and that is not a place that I like to stay for long. So in my experience, once I can get the ball rolling, like finding the top 3 things, then everything just begins to work. My days are clearer and the feeling of there's just too much begins to fade. But this week, I was struggling. I don't have a team to hold a meeting, so I decided to try and experiment with chat to see if it could help me sort and prioritize. So I told chat what I was up to, and I just asked it to help me prioritize. I explained that this was going to be a stream of consciousness list, and I wanted to figure out how to get the important things done. That's all I said at first, and I just typed in my whole list. What it came back with was, I'm going to do these 3 things for you. And here are the 3 things. 1, group this into strategic buckets so it's not overwhelming. 2, prioritize what actually drives revenue and momentum first. And 3, turn this into a realistic weekly rhythm that you can follow starting now. So it sorted my list into 4 systems that are coexisting in my brain and all making the same amount of noise. It put each of my list items into these buckets. These are my 4 buckets. The first one was called visibility. That's what brings people in. The second was conversion, turning interest into sales. The third was product expansion. That's what I sell. And the 4th was called operations. That's what keeps my business running. Then it identified what stood out as the 4 priorities based on where my list items were leaning. Things I spoke about numerous times from maybe slightly different angles, or I asked the same question in a few different ways. So from there, it pulled out those 4 priorities it found, and it showed me the list items that fell under those priorities. One of the items on my list was to experiment with theme days. I want to time block each day for one specific thing in my business, like finance or marketing or product development. So chat took my list and it broke each day into specific block suggestions. For instance, Monday for content creation or Tuesday for marketing. Wednesday for website or product development. That's how it laid it out. Obviously, I need to fine-tune it for my real days, but it was a good starting thought that I can definitely work with to get me started on theme days. The next thing it did was start breaking down the specific list items into actionable tasks. It said, here's what I'd have you do immediately, and listed 4 tasks in order of what it saw as the needle movers based on my list. Outside note, it does know the basics of my business. It knows my mission, vision, voice, and avatar. So it's pulling from that general info as it makes the suggestions. It's not completely blind to my business goals, so I think that's very helpful. From there, it asked me to look at the list it had been compiling and figure out what one primary growth driver I wanted to focus on this week. Having my mental declutter list segmented into those buckets was quite helpful for me to figure out where I really felt like I needed to lean this week. Those are things I could have done by myself, but again, I'm all by myself here, and I was struggling with all the wheels being squeaky. So having the items sorted for me was incredibly helpful. Once I chose my main driver, it started working on a high-level strategy and showed me how to incorporate that into my overall plan. So now I have the list broken into those system buckets, my main priorities identified, and then those turned into an overall strategy for the week. It began asking me more specific questions about my strategy, fine-tuning what I really want to accomplish overall. So then after asking me a few questions, watching it narrow things down into those system buckets, I finally said, I am a daily planner. I need to know what to do tomorrow. And it sorted through everything we've been talking about and made suggestions for how to tackle this list using the systems buckets and breaking down what I wanted to get accomplished into small tasks that I can do to grow my business a little bit each day. It also told me what not to do tomorrow, which in itself is very helpful because, as you probably know, when you have a giant list and big ideas, it can be really easy to start down some rabbit hole that seems like such a good idea at the time, but it's actually not an idea for now. There will be a better time to dive into that. So in the end, I think that this experiment was really helpful. If you're struggling with a giant ongoing brain dump of a list and everything feels like it's really heavy, give it a try. By taking my list and taking those items and grouping them together into the systems buckets, I could clearly see where my brain is focusing right now. And that's really important, especially as a small business owner without a team. You know your business better than anyone. You know where you need to be moving and what those steps are. It can just be so overwhelming when there are all those other aspects of business you need to attend to. Now I'm able to take those due tomorrow tasks and write them right into my daily dashboard. It got the ball rolling again, and I'm motivated to keep it going.